Hey everyone, Michael here with another video. So today we're going to be going through scanning in our wax rims with our desktop scanner over here so that we can go from having our physical wax rims in our hands to a digital file that we're going to be able to send to the lab in order for them to fabricate our try-in denture that we're going to be 3D printing in the next video.
So to start off with, we're here on our home screen and we're going to use 3Shape Dental Manager right here. I already have it open. And this is going to be the screen that pops up. Now, this is the least intuitive part of 3Shape, and the most important thing with 3Shape in this case is you need to understand where you're trying to go, because it's once you get inside the scanning software, it's super intuitive. You just go next, 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 but you have to get there to begin with. And the way you get there is not very clear to begin with. So we're going to start off, and clearly, as you would probably be able to guess, we're going to come up here to the top left corner, find this random button that says New. Because what we're going to do here is we're going to place an order. We're placing an order for a denture, but we're not actually placing an order for like wax rims or something like that, because this is the software that we use and the lab uses in order to actually design the denture, but it's also our mechanism in order to get to the software that we need to in order to use our desktop scanner. So this is the order form that comes up, a lot of options, and I wish I could say it's easy, you just hit scan, but it is very, very important that you select the correct things. So first off, up here on the operator, I'm just going to choose myself. Order number right here, we're going to just type in sample wax rims. It's important to go ahead and just name everything correctly and be very specific with your naming, because you'll see on here we've got hundreds and hundreds of orders that we've completed on here. And so if you ever want to go back and change something or make an adjustment, if you have a correct and accurate and very clear naming system, that makes your life significantly easier. So we've got the order number, where you've got in the top right, this is another important area for scan settings. So under object type, we've got model, digital impression, and impression. This is going to be a model. I know it might sound counterintuitive because technically we are scanning a final impression, but part of that is going to be we're trying to replicate, we're treating this as a model basically in order to create our dentures off of. We would select impression if we were going to be doing like, say, a crown or something like that, because the software needs to know that it's scanning an impression rather than a poured up model of a cast. So we're going to select model here, and then antagonist, it'll pop up here in a second, but for example, if you're doing a crown, you would need to obviously put the antagonist scan in there as well. So we've selected model, and we're going to come over here to the teeth, and what we're going to do is we're going to select the teeth that we're trying to do. So we're going to go to this upper second molar right here, and click on it and it turns red. I'm going to hold down the shift key on the keyboard and go to the contralateral second molar here, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the mandible as well. So we've got all of it selected in red. It's important to note, do not select the third molars for this, because the software does freak out a little bit if you do select the third molars for this. So we've got all these options on the right side. Today, all we're going to be doing is we're going to select gingiva, and then these are kind of our denture options, and we're actually going to select copy denture right here. Now, we're not making a copy denture here. We're not making any denture here. We're just trying to get into this scanning apparatus here in order to scan these in to send the files off to the lab. So this is the way we do it. I know it might not seem super logical, but like I said, this part of 3Shape is completely devoid of any logic whatsoever. So now that we've got both the upper arch and the lower arch selected for a copy denture, we're going to come down here to the scan button right here. We're going to click on that. And then I'm going to wait a second right here while it loads our scanning software. So scanner just turned on right over here. It's getting ready to scan. And we can see here the case number that we typed in is currently right there under sample wax rims. And we've got both a maxillary and a mandibular denture that we're going to be scanning. Now, what's important with this is this isn't a true 3D scanner. You can't just put your denture in there and then automatically scan every possible direction of the scanner. That you'll see as it works that what it actually does is we need to take, for both the maxillary and the mandibular denture, we need to take a top side scan and a bottom side scan. And then what the software is going to do is it's going to merge the two of those together into one cohesive model that then we're going to send off to the lab. So let's just go ahead and get this started scanning. So we're going to do the top side first. And one of the great things with 3Shape is once you get past the order screen, that is always tricky. Once you get to the scanning software, they really give you all the information you need. So down here on the bottom left, you can see that there's insignias that I'll show you here on the scanner in a second. But we're going to put the upper denture in position 2, which is going to be the position furthest away from you, towards the wall in this case. And then we're going to, in position 1, put the lower denture. Now we're going to be scanning the top side for both of them first, then we're going to scan the bottom side. And the other thing to note is that it's weird, but there is no button that just says scan. Why they didn't put that in there, I have no idea. But what you're going to do is you're going to get them set up here on the scanner, and then you're going to hit next. So let's go over to the scanner real quick, and we're going to position them how we would like, and then we're going to come back here and go ahead and scan them.
All right, so first off, we're going to do the top side scan for both the upper and the lower wax rims that we've got here. So first off, before we actually scan it, we need to make sure that all of the shiny surface of the wax is more of a matte finish. Just for the scanner, that's the way that it has to be in order for it to scan accurately. So I'm going to take our Omnicam spray here that we use for CEREC, and I'll show you here. So you can see kind of in this posterior portion, it's pretty shiny. So I'm just going to come through here and just add a very slight layer for this. And all I'm looking for this is for it to have more of a matte finish. So a little bit more. So you want more of a matte finish, kind of like that. And you want that throughout the entire wax rim. What this will just do is this will just ensure that it's accurately scanned by our desktop scanner right here. So the other thing is that we have 2 different heights of little like towers that we put on these. So you can see the insignias on here that we've got 2 and 1. And that will correlate right here to the desktop scanner of position 1 and position 2. So position 1 is going to be your mandibular, and position 2 is going to be your maxillary. And again, it says this on the 3Shape software if you ever do get confused. And then whenever we do scan the occlusion, it's going to be on position 1. So we're going to be using this shorter tower for any sort of models that we're doing, and the taller tower for denture. So we'll grab both of the denture ones. So this is number 2. So we'll just magnetically put it right here. And it has the plates that go on top as well that are mix and match. So make sure that's on there. Make sure number 1 is on there as well. So then we're going to take our wax rim, and we're going to take this sticky wax that will help hold it in place, because if you see here a little bit closer, you see how this just wobbles back and forth. And I'll go into it in a different video of some common scanning mistakes, but we need to make sure that this is secure on the platform for it to scan accurately. So what we'll do is we'll take a little bit of this sticky wax. I'm just going to put it up here in the anterior intaglio. And all this is going to do is just allow us to stick this down onto the surface. And it's going to hold it in place. Now, if we look at it like this, we want to have a little bit of separation between the bottom or the vestibule of the wax rim and the tray. This will just allow us to be a little bit more accurate in how we trim this after we scan it. So we're going to do the maxillary one as well. So just a little bit of blue tack right there on the palette. For these dentures especially, just because they are much lighter than like a stone model or something like that, even if it feels like it is secure on there, I would recommend always using a little bit of that sticky wax in order to make sure it's totally secure. But then also, like I said, make sure that it's raised slightly off of the surface of the tray for that.
All right, so now that we have them positioned correctly on the scanner for the top side scan, like I said, there's no scan button, so we're just gonna go up here and we're gonna hit next in the top left corner. So as we're gonna do that, the scanner turns on, it swivels around, and it's going to start scanning both the maxillary and the mandibular top side denture. Now, what you'll be able to see is as it goes through this, you start to see it form on the screen. And this is where it starts to process what it's seen to make sure that it's accurate and stitch all of these together into one cohesive topside scan. And the way that it does it is it basically takes a lot of, you can think of it as pictures more or less, but it takes pictures that measure the depth at many different angles, and then it stitches them together in order to form one model. So this is what we're looking at for the top side. Now, I have another video after this called that goes through some of the common errors. So I'm not going to go into that too specifically here. But what we're looking for here is just to make sure that there's no significant holes or areas that are inaccurate. So we're going to be, I'm very familiar with these. This is my own case. So what I'm looking for just to make sure that the scan aligns with what is clinically evident on the denture itself. So the top side of the maxillary looks great. So we're going to come here to the mandibular denture and look through here to make sure it's all solid. And yeah, it is a little bit humbling seeing your wax rim scanned in, because you hold it in your hand, you're like, wow, this looks beautiful. It's smooth. There's no bumps. And you bring it in here and you're like, oh man, like what happened? What happened here? Same thing if you've ever done a CEREC crown as well. Once you see it so far blown up that you're like, oh, geez, that's not very good. So we've got the top side scan for both done. And so now we're going to move on to the bottom side scan. So we're going to go over to the scanner, get them flipped over to the bottom side, go ahead and get that scanned in, and then we're going to start trimming the models.
So in order to flip them over, you're literally just going to take it off. And even though it feels like it is secure, I would always recommend using the blue tack. I like putting it on the anterior for the mandibular one. Just stick it down to make sure it's there in place. And then for the maxillary one, I would just put it right there on the palate. And then go ahead and stick it down. Now, it's the same thing that if you see, there is a little bit of separation between, in this case, the occlusal portion of the wax rim and the tray that it's scanning on.
All right, so we got the dentures flipped over on the scanner. So now we are ready to come scan the bottom side of both the maxillary and the mandibular denture. So we're gonna come here on the left side to bottom side scan. And again, it gives you the same instructions that number one is going to be maxillary, number two is going to be, or sorry, other way around. Number one is going to be the mandibular, number two is going to be the maxillary. So we select bottom side, and then we're just gonna hit next. The scanner starts moving, it's gonna do its thing. And so now, while that's scanning, let's go through and we're going to trim the maxillary and the mandibular topside scans. So think of it as, I'm going to go through in a little bit more detail in that scanning errors video of what the purpose of this trimming is. But think of it as we're scanning, we're not able to scan the entire thing all at once. So we're going to scan the top side of it, we're going to scan the bottom side of it, and then we need to merge these together in a way that's accurate. Now, if we don't trim it at all, we're going to come here to align denture parts. You see how we just have all of this flash that comes up? So always for this, and you're going to be seeing this a lot, the yellow is going to be the top side scan, the white is going to be the bottom side scan. But what we see here is that both of the scans are really accurate. They look great, but because there's so much excess, in this case, so much excess of the top side scan, we create this entire lip that goes all the way around, and the same of excess on the bottom side scan. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to kind of create a line where there's maybe 2 to 5 millimeters of overlap between the top side scan and the bottom side scan so that we can avoid these areas of imperfections. So top side scan, we're going to go kind of to where the margin of the wax and the impression material is that you can see through here. Like I said, this is my own work, so I apologize that it's so bumpy. But we're going to go to the line mode here in the bottom left, and we're just going to click points. Now, if you want to, you can just draw it on here. This is all personal preference. Personally, I feel like I have more control when I just do individual points. So that's what I prefer, but your mileage may vary. So we're just going to come through here and we're going to define our line. And again, we're trying to keep this not super low, because if we come all the way down here, then we're going to get that really large lip that we saw before. But we are trying to keep it kind of close to that junction of the wax and the impression material. So we're going to come up here. Now, for a maxillary denture, and you're just going to have to take my word on this. Once you start scanning some, you'll see that I'm right. But the posterior portion of the denture is always where it struggles the most, because if you think about it, there's not that much material there and there's not that much physical structure there in order to get a lot of overlap. So oftentimes there's going to be small holes and stuff that form, but we can fix that and it's not really that big of a deal. So we're going to come here all the way through here just to make sure that we've got enough points and enough of it scanned in order to properly align it. So once you have the line set, you can go through and make fine adjustments to it like this. So you can see I'm just dragging this line towards the vestibule a little bit. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect because all we just need is some overlap between the two of them. So top side on the maxillary is scanned. Now we're going to do the bottom side on the maxillary. So this is where you got to go think back to, where did we just draw our line on the top side scan? So the top side scan, I came in kind of through here approximately. So what I would like to do is I want to go a little bit above that area. So I want to come kind of up here so that this band all through here is the overlap between the two of them. Because if I came and let's just say I made the line in the vestibule, all of that's going to be a hole, and then that's not an area where you would like a hole. We need that to be as accurate as possible. So like I said, the top side scan came through here. So I'm just going to cheat occlusally a little bit and make sure that we have enough overlap between the two of them. And you can see it doesn't have to be super exact, but you do kind of have to know where you are. And this is one of those things that does just take practice. I've scanned way too many of these. So you start to kind of get an eye for what you're doing and for the mistakes to avoid, etc. So that's completed. So again, it doesn't look perfect, but if we go ahead and go through to align denture parts, this is what that alignment looks like. So what we're looking for is this kind of speckled appearance between, like I said, yellow is the top side, white is the bottom side scan. So this speckled appearance just means that the alignment is so close that, I mean, it's on a microscopic level, it's just going through and barely overlapping in different areas. So that's a great sign. So as long as we're seeing areas of like that consistently throughout, we know that we've got a good scan on our hands, and you can see it come through here. Again, that just looks pretty textbook. And you can see through the posterior portion, we were able to capture all of the areas. Now, one thing to check for is to see if we have any lips or anything, which we don't. Looks pretty good to me. And now we've got our maxillary wax rim scanned in. So we're going to do the same thing on the lower. Again, we have everything already scanned, so we just come through here for the alignment. We're on the top side scan right now, so we're going to go to trim. And again, I'm going to come here, kind of close to the vestibule, and we're going to just define this line all through here. Now, you said the posterior portion of the maxillary one is where there's always a lot of issues. The areas of issue for mandibular dentures, for scanning them in, are going to be the most posterior kind of retromolar pad area through here. So we're going to want to actually kind of cheat and come pretty close to the intaglio on here, because this oftentimes is not super accurate and can cause holes to form in there. So we're going to take this line, come through here. Now, this is going to be that wax that we use in order to kind of keep the denture stuck in place there. So obviously we don't want to include that in our final scan. So I'm going to come through here and go like this, which looks good. And then just finish it out. Again, cheating across to the retromolar pad area. And again, there is our top side scan trimmed. Now let's go ahead and trim the bottom side scan. So same thing as before. Our top side scan went through here, kind of through that margin between the two of these. So we want to make sure we have some overlap here. So I'm going to come a little bit more occlusally through here, just to make sure that that alignment is good. So we're just going to come through here again. And if you ever put a dot on there that you don't like, you can just Control Z and it's totally fine. And this is where the intaglia, or the lingual portion, starts to get a little bit tricky, because all through here, that's all that wax that we used in order to adhere it. So we're just going to come right up to that margin, because there's probably going to be a few holes in there. But our goal is to just capture everything that we need to capture in this and make sure that the alignment works out well. So this actually did a really good job of scanning that retromolar pad area through there, which I am very happy with. And now we've completed the line. So before I go through and make any fine adjustments, I always just like to look at the alignment just to see what we're dealing with, because that kind of determines how we adjust it. So again, yellow is the top side scan and white is the bottom side scan. So coming through here, we see it looks like it's aligned pretty accurately. Very nice speckled appearance through there. Retromolar pad area is accurate. And all the way through the lingual actually looks pretty solid. Now you see that there is this lip that's kind of formed right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the bottom side scan and bring it more towards the inferior portion of it. So we're going to go to trim on the bottom side scan here. This is the area that was a little bit too high. So like I said, we're just going to kind of drag this down a little bit through here, and then go back to align and see what we're dealing with. That looks good. This anterior portion we're going to bring down a little bit more as well. Like that. Let's see how we think about that. All right, yeah, that looks good. We just have this small area right there on the lingual. It's kind of a weird area, to be honest with you. I'm gonna get right in there. And then right here, I'm just gonna draw a line, just like that. And for the adjustment, it just kind of brings that entire line down. So let's go to align, make sure we like this, specifically on the lingual. And yeah, that looks great. Again, there's small lips and stuff there, but this is not an area that we're too concerned about, because the software is automatically going to fill in the gingiva on the lingual side so that it's smooth and it's not going to be nearly as thick and bulbous as it is right now, given that this is the final impression. So we've got that. Now we're going to go on to the occlusal scan. So we're going to hit next. And then we're going to go back over to the scanner, get that set up with our articulator, and then go ahead and scan that in.
So we're going to take the models off of the scanning trays, and what we're going to do is take our bite registration, make sure that it is fully seated. Like we said, always make sure you mark it just to make our lives a little bit easier. And then we're going to take our wax right here, we're going to place it in the anterior portion. And then we're just going to stick it down onto the surface just to make sure that it's nice and secure, which it is. And so now we're ready to scan the occlusion.
So it's going to go through and scan this. It scans the occlusion very quickly because it actually doesn't take too many points that you'll see here. So you can see it start to come in on our articulator. It's finally processing. Perfect. All right, so you can see the margins kind of between the wax rim and then on the articulator as well. So There are holes on here, but we're not nearly as concerned with this for the occlusion because it has a lot of points with that it's going to be able to align with. So we're going to go first off to hit align lower arch manually. And what I'm looking for on here is I'm looking for one specific point that is generally going to be like a defect in the wax or something like that, that I can say give it on both the lower arch scan and then the occlusal scan as well. So it's able to, it basically brings those two together and then does very fine alignment between the two of them to come up with the accurate occlusal scan. So I like this point right here on the wax rim. So I'm going to go with this more distal portion right there. I'm going to come over here to the bite scan and click on that same portion right there. And then look at that. Like I said, it's the same speckled appearance that we really like, and we're just making sure that it is accurate and it looks great. So align upper arch now. So for the upper arch, I like this point right here. So I'm going to click on that point. I come right here, we're going to click on that point right there as well. It's going to align. And you see, it didn't align properly here. And this is a great example of how do we kind of fix the problems that it has. So in this case, it did not align properly. So we're going to go through it. We're going to clear all the points and we're going to switch it over here to 3-point alignment instead. So sometimes you need to do the 3 points. Most of the time, 1 point is fine. So we're going to click on both for the red point. And then we're going to go through and we're going to define some new points as well. I actually kind of like this like kind of extrusion right there. So if we click here for green, that's perfect. And come through here for green as well on the bite scan. Now let's go with one on the other side. Maybe something over in this area. Yeah, I like this point right here. This point right there. We come through here and that corresponds to this point right there. And there we go. That looks like a perfectly accurate occlusal scan for that maxillary waxed rim. Again, you're just looking for that speckled appearance between the two of them, and I love it. Let's go to alignment results to see the occlusal scan that's finished. And that looks fantastic. Like I said, when you scan them in, this is my own work, and so you can see that there are some gaps and stuff in here, which again, on a conventional denture, you would have to fix. You know, these portions on the palate, you would have to fix those. But for the digital portion, we have all the areas that we really care about accurately scanned in. So that's what matters for this. So now that we have these scans done, we need to go ahead and export these files to be able to send them to our lab service for them to go through and design this denture. So from here, we're going to hit next. We're going to hit design. So a lot of the thing with times with 3Shape, you have to like kind of trick it into doing what you want it to do. So we're not designing this denture. All we did was scan it. But in order for us to be able to access our scans, we need to kind of trick it into going to the next step, which is going to the design. And we're just going to exit out of the design and go download our scans. So here you go. This would be how we would design our actual denture. So we're just going to exit out of this in the top right. We do not wish to save our design because there's no design. Doesn't matter. Now, we see this icon right here, this little scanner. So what that means is that this has been scanned. So we actually have a scan that we can export here. So I'm going to right click on it. And this is probably the least intuitive part of it. We're going to go down to advanced on this drop down menu, and we're going to hit export scan. Now, we're going to save it to a folder. Now, what's really important with this is that we do a really good job of naming these files. So we're going to save this as an STL file, and I'm going to save this as Gimity Wax Rim Scan 1. And then this is going to be the upper one, and you can see in the name that it provides, it'll tell you if it's the upper or the lower. So we got it named correctly. We're going to hit save here, and then we have the lower preparation scan right here. So we're going to do just copy and paste the same thing in and go lower on here. So we hit save. Then now if we go to that file over here, we've got the files right here. So we're able to open these up, no problem, look at them, and we're able to then also, even better, send these files to the lab. So this is them together. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these files and upload them to the lab via our mechanism to do that.
All right, so that does it for today with scanning in our wax rim and sending it to the lab. So from this point, it's a little bit of a waiting game. We're just waiting to get back our design from the lab, which then once we do get that back, we'll be able to 3D print a tri-end denture with that file, and that will be in the next video. So thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.